Level 989.
Welcome to a 989 on Health Extra. These quick supplements should help ease any withdrawal symptoms you may experience while waiting for our next full episode. So, Mike, what's on today's agenda?
This week we're looking at a couple of conditions that can be caused by your thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is a two-lobed endocrine gland, and endocrine is just another word for hormone, and it's found in the throat region below your Adam's apple. The thyroid gland weighs around 25 to 30 grams. It's tiny, but it's important. A few quick facts about the thyroid gland. The hormones produced by the thyroid, primarily triiodothyronine and thyroxine, help maintain metabolism, heart rate, and body temperature. Now, there are two main ways the thyroid can misbehave: by producing too much hormone, which speeds up your metabolism, and by not producing enough hormone, slowing down your metabolism. Medical terms are not always that easy for the average Joe to figure out, but the prefixes hypo and hyper are about to come into play here. Hyper is the easier of the two. We're used to using the word hyper for people that are overactive, and that's the medical definition we're using in the term hyperthyroidism, where the thyroid is producing too much hormone. Hypo isn't as logical a term, but hypo means low, under, below normal. People with hyperthyroidism make too much thyroid hormone. People with hypothyroidism don't make enough thyroid hormone. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 1.2% of the U.S. population currently have hyperthyroidism. That's about 400,000 people. And 4.6% have hypothyroidism, or about 15 million people. And hey, full disclosure, I have hypothyroidism myself. My body does not produce enough thyroid hormone. Hyperthyroidism symptoms include shaky hands, irregular heartbeat, fatigue, trouble breathing, trouble tolerating heat, diarrhea, weight loss, and a problem called goiter, where the thyroid gland itself is so enlarged it causes a noticeable lump in the throat. Extreme cases of goiter can even interfere with breathing and swallowing. The way the thyroid gland seems to work is, for X amount of thyroid tissue, you get Y amount of thyroid hormone. So as you can imagine, if you have a thyroid that is 50 grams instead of the normal 25 grams, it's producing a lot more hormone than your body needs. Sometimes the extra tissue growth of the thyroid is a well-contained nodule that can be removed with surgery or zapped with a radiation beam. But sometimes the entire thyroid itself just continues to grow and grow. In cases like these, most of the thyroid will be surgically removed. So folks with a surgically removed thyroid have suddenly changed from hyper folks to hypo folks. That is, hypothyroidism, or low levels of thyroid hormones. Some of the symptoms of low levels of thyroid hormone are pretty similar to high levels. Fatigue, issues with heart rate, trouble tolerating cold, weight gain, constipation, and goiter. Your doctor might examine you and based on your symptoms think that you might have a thyroid issue, but unless they can feel a noticeable growth on your thyroid, the best way to diagnose your particular problem is with a blood test to check your hormone levels. Women are much more likely than men to develop hypothyroidism. If you suffer from anemia, diabetes, or lupus, you're more likely to have hypothyroidism. And hypothyroidism can also contribute to high cholesterol. So what causes the thyroid gland to misbehave? There are a lot of ideas, but no one's really sure. There are many possible reasons. One reason is called Hashimoto's disease. It's an autoimmune disorder, where basically your body is attacking its own tissues. There's also thyroiditis, or inflammation of the thyroid. There's also congenital hypothyroidism. That just means hypothyroidism that's present when you're born. There can be too much or too little iodine in your diet. And last, pituitary disease. Now, the pituitary is a gland in your brain. It's about the size of a pea. And the pituitary takes instructions from a series of different body systems to send messages telling the thyroid what to do. So if the systems talking to the pituitary aren't doing a good job, or for some reason the pituitary itself isn't responding like it should, perhaps it's getting the messages but it's not properly acting on them, or the pituitary is doing everything perfectly but the thyroid gland itself isn't performing properly. It's a complex system and it's hard to say where the problems lie, and the precise reasons might be different for each person. There's still a lot of unknowns. Also, and this is something I don't think gets talked about enough, There's an accepted normal range for how much thyroid hormone doctors expect to see in your blood, but your personal normal might be outside that range, and you might not be experiencing any ill effects. Maybe a higher or a lower level is just normal for you. You might not need medication. Hypothyroidism can be caused by low functioning of the thyroid gland, insufficient stimulus from the pituitary gland, or insufficient stimulus from the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is a portion of the brain that plays an important role in regulating your metabolism. So how are thyroid issues diagnosed? Well, a medical history is taken. Does your family have thyroid issues? Were you pregnant recently? What foods do you eat? The doctor will likely perform manual palpation. That's pressing and touching in the area with their hands to identify any obvious nodules or swelling. A lab test of thyroid-stimulating hormone levels in the blood will likely be ordered, followed by another lab test a few weeks later to confirm the initial findings. More advanced tests for hypothyroidism include an ultrasound of the thyroid, which allows the doctor to look for and examine any thyroid nodules. Even more high-tech is the gamma probe, which determines how much radioactive iodine is absorbed by the thyroid at measured intervals. The primary treatment for hypothyroidism is hormone replacement therapy. That means you take a pill every day, and that's typically levothyroxine. The prescribed hormone medicine will bring the levels in the blood up to the expected amount. Hypothyroidism is likely to be completely controlled by the hormone replacement therapy if the patient takes their medications as instructed. Your doctor's going to order tests to check your hormone levels after 6 months, and then once a year after that. You're also going to have yearly exams to check for any swelling or nodules in the thyroid itself. Hormone replacement works well for a majority of symptoms, but long-term outlook has issues. Hypothyroidism is linked to reduced renal function, and renal means kidney, raising the risk of chronic kidney disease from 2 times to 7 times. So I'm 7 times more likely to get chronic kidney disease. And what does that mean? Well, chronic kidney disease is a gradual loss of kidney function, which can result in heart disease, high blood pressure, bone disease, anemia, a lot of fun things. It's not just necessarily your kidneys. Hypothyroidism is not a preventable disease. Its causes are varied and complex, and while diet, specifically iodine intake, is a factor, genetic predisposition is the most likely factor. Radiation damage to the thyroid during dental x-rays can be minimized using a thyroid shield. They're kind of cute, actually. It kind of looks like a little lead bib for your throat. You know, I had a lot of dental work done in the 1970s and a lot of x-rays with equipment that probably dated to the 1960s. So how did me having bad dental hygiene and lots of cavities eventually lead to me having an issue with my thyroid? We'll never know. But avoiding unnecessary radiation is another reason to brush and floss. But you can't tell a kid that, it won't soak in, but the radiation sure will. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism probably 5 years ago, and I've been taking prescription thyroid medicine ever since. It seems to be working well, though I have been taking a higher and higher dose over those years to keep the amount in my blood up to the normal values. The increased likelihood of kidney disease caused by having this disorder isn't a fun thing for me to look forward to. The idea of needing a dialysis machine on a regular basis does not appeal in the slightest. Even if they do have dialysis machines in the home now, just plug yourself into the port for a few hours while your blood is filtered. That's fun. The kidneys do a lot more than filter your blood and create urine. They have millions of tiny sensors that are tasting your blood, and the kidneys send a lot of messages to different parts of your body to turn hormones on or off. This is just an average Joe daydreaming here, but I wonder if me taking the daily prescription of thyroid hormone, while it corrects my metabolism, might be too consistent. If my body were working correctly, the kidneys could talk to the hypothalamus, which could talk to the pituitary, which could talk to the thyroid gland, and throughout the day could release more or less thyroid hormone as needed. But having that consistent prescribed amount all the time from the pill might mean that oftentimes the thyroid amount is too high. And maybe it's burning out the kidneys, maybe? I need to do more research on exactly how the kidneys are damaged in all this. But I wonder if someday there would be home testing, like for diabetics and their blood sugar. Home testing for thyroid hormone. and I would adjust the amount of thyroid hormone I took each day based on the results of those tests. Would that help prevent kidney damage? It would have to help, wouldn't it? But what do I know? As always, there are lots of useful links in the show notes. Be sure to check these out for more details. Thanks again to our great listeners for sending in suggestions. If you'd like to send in your own topic for consideration, head on over to level989.com/contact and make it so.
That's all for now. You can find links to read more about today's topics at level989.com. Why not take a moment to rate or review us in iTunes, or give us a mention on social media? We can't help everyone if they don't know we exist. Don't rely on us as an alternative to medical advice from a professional healthcare provider. For the full disclaimer, please see our website. Thanks for listening, and now, go health yourself.